Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and once again I'm coming to you with another range report. And today's range report is another one of those revisits. I'm shooting a gun that I have shot before. Well, not this particular example, but it's the same model and of course the same manufacturer. This is the CZ97B. Now, this is a gun that I shot and I think I had an okay experience with, but it was an older version. Now, this particular version is the latest version that CZ put out before they discontinued this model. So as far as I know, the 97B is officially discontinued, and this was the last version that they made. And I know some of you are wondering, what is the 97B? Well, the 97B essentially is a 45 ACP version of the CZ75. Now, the internals and the mechanisms are a little bit different. It does have a barrel bushing, has a little bit different recoil system, but for the most part, it's like a CZ75B that has been beefed up a little bit. And this particular gun is on loan to the channel from my good friend Matt M. Now, I have borrowed many of his guns in the past. He has an awesome collection and he loves CZs, or as my friend Andrew from Australia calls them, CZs. Zeds just don't sound right coming off my tongue, so we call them CZs here in the United States. And you know, I like to joke, there's only two types of countries in the world: those that have landed man on the moon and returned him safely to the earth, and those countries that call these guns CZs. Yeah, it's a CZ97B. So thank you, Matt, for lending this to the channel. I also want to thank my Patreons, as always, because through their monthly donations and support, they help keep the lights on around here. As you know, I am one of YouTube's bad boys, apparently. They don't like to monetize my content, so my Patreons go a long way in helping me keep this content coming. And before I tell you about all the things that I like and don't like about this pistol, I want to thank my primary sponsor, as always, Brownworks. And what's really cool about having a CZ here on the table tonight is talking about grips, because I like these grips that CZ has put on these new 97Bs, but you might not like them and be like, hey, I have this awesome CZ pistol. I would like something really nice, especially in a wood variety with a custom logo or engraving on them. Well, I have the perfect company for you to go check out, and that is Brownworks. Mark over there is an artist. He's a craftsman. He can make a wide variety of grips for a wide variety of firearms out of a wide variety of exotic woods and materials. And let me tell you, his craftsmanship is some of the best out there, if not the best, as well as his customer service. He makes grips for guns like 1911s, Beretta 92s, and yes, even CZs. A whole bunch of different CZ models, and he's always adding new models to his lineup all the time. So, if you're in the market for fine wood grips for a fine firearm like a CZ, please go check out Brownworks. I'm going to put a link to his website in the description, as well as a pinned comment, and also a discount code for 10% off your first order. So go over there, see what Brownworks offers. If you don't find what you're looking for, make sure to contact Mark, and when you do, tell him the Texas Gun Vault sent you. Alright, so let's talk about this CZ97B. I've already told you a little bit about it and exactly what it is. It's that beefed up version of the CZ75 chambered in 45 ACP, and this is now a discontinued model. So the few of these that are still sitting on gun store shelves that you can find are actually going up in price, and I have a feeling these are going to be collector's models, and that's actually why Matt purchased this. Now, I mentioned I have reviewed a CZ97 in the past. I believe it was Ken's. I did have a couple of issues with it, and I think it mainly had to do with the recoil spring. The action of that gun just didn't really seem all that good. The gun shot well and was obviously well made, but it just didn't shoot very well for me, and I'm glad I get the newest version of this to kind of see if CZ changed any things. So let's go ahead and talk about the things that I like and don't like, and a couple of those things that I really like are things that they did change. The first thing you'll notice is this particular model does have front cocking serrations. Yeah, I like that a lot. I think that looks aesthetically very pleasing and makes this gun a lot more functional than the versions without, because you guys know these CZs have the inverted rails and you don't have a lot of space on the slide to get that purchase with your hand to cock that slide back. So having those front serrations is really, really nice. I really like these sights that come on this gun as well. I think CZ does a great job with those. You got that fiber optic sight in the front. You have a dovetailed sight in the back. I find that these are very attractive, work really well. So I'm a huge fan of that. I've already alluded to the grips a little bit. So if you like the stock grips on these and don't want to change out to a Brownworks grips, I think these are awesome. It is my understanding that these are aluminum. So these are really a huge upgrade. Personally, I don't like those really rubberized grips that CZ puts on many of their models. And I like the look of these metal aluminum grips. Yeah, you get that CZ logo in there. You can see the texture in those grips. I like that a lot. And the last thing I really like about this gun is the fact that it is a CZ. CZ is one of those companies that I have honestly really grown to love and appreciate. And I really need to expand my CZ collection because they just make some awesome pistols. And I have really grown to appreciate all the work and the craftsmanship that goes into these guns. All right, so now let's talk about a few things about this gun that I don't like. Now, I'm not a huge fan of these dust covers that go all the way out to the end of the slide. I kind of think they make the guns look a little bit blocky and a little bit big when they don't have to be. But if you're gonna have that big old dust cover out here, you need to put a rail on here. There's no rail on this. And I kind of feel like for a modern 45, and I think this is kind of a duty combat 45, you definitely need a rail out here. Some people are going to say you probably need an optics plate as well. That doesn't bother me as much, but you definitely need that rail out front. Now, another thing about this gun, which I do like, but there's an aspect of it that I don't like, is the fact this version has the manual safety. I like manual safeties on my CZs versus the decocker version, but I understand why the decocker versions are more popular. But if you are going to have the manual safety like this gun is set up, I really want that detent on this safety to be strong. You know, when you carry a 1911, you can safely carry those cocked and locked because the detent on those manual safeties is really strong. I don't really feel like the manual safety on this is all that good. So it kind of comes off a little bit easy, very much like a Browning high power. So I'm not really sure if this would be a safe gun to carry cocked and locked. Some people might say it is, but I'd be a little bit apprehensive. I'd want to carry it with the hammer down, but without the decocker, there's no way of safely lowering that hammer. Which, by the way, you can't dry fire a CZ. Well, you can, but you can damage the firing pin over time because of this roll pin. So if you don't have a snap cap in here, always make sure you lower the hammer manually. And I'll do that right there. So that's the only way to safely lower that hammer if you want to carry this with the hammer down. The last thing about this gun, I wish that they could improve, especially because of all the guns that this gun is competing with, is the magazine capacity. This is a big old magazine, but it only carries 10 rounds. That's it, 10 rounds. When you have guns like the FNX, which has 15, well, 10 rounds just isn't a lot. I even think, what, the Glock 21 has 13 rounds? You gotta have a few more in here. Now, I know there are a few states that only have 10 round capacity limits. Well, that's fine, but you gotta have options, especially with the stock firearm with more than 10 in today's world. But that's just coming from someone that's used to higher capacity pistols. That might not bother some people because they'll say 10 rounds of 45 is enough, but personally, I like to be able to carry as many rounds as I possibly can, especially with a gun like this, which I said I think is kind of a duty gun. It's definitely not a concealed carry gun. It's way too big, but if you can open carry, or maybe you're a police officer, this might be a great option for you, and having that extra capacity will go a long way, in my personal opinion. All right, so I've talked about the things that I like and don't like. I'm really excited to get to shoot this, see if this latest version is any different than the version I shot before. So let's go ahead and get this thing to the range. I'm gonna put its first magazine through this, and I'm also gonna kill two birds with one stone with this test. Normally, I do the first shots test, and then later I do the hollow point test. Well, just based on the ammunition that I have, I'm gonna combine the two. So this is gonna be my first shots, but the magazine is gonna be filled with hollow points. I'll show you what I'm shooting before the range footage. And so I'm just gonna make sure this thing runs with hollow points, and I'm curious to see how this gun performs. Is it accurate? How good is the trigger? And how good is the recoil as compared to the version that I shot before with that weaker recoil spring? So let's go to the range and let's see how this thing shoots. And being that this is the latest version of this gun with a brand new recoil spring in here, I gotta say I'm really impressed with the recoil. You know, 45s for me are something that I think are kind of going out of style. I just prefer 9mm, not that I don't like 45. I know it's the great American caliber, but they can be a little bit more hard-hitting. Not from a snappy standpoint, but they're just more hard-hitting in my hand, and I just like the capacity and the feel of a 9. But I gotta say, the recoil on this is really good, and compared to the other CZ97 that I did shoot, this has very consistent ejection. I like that as well. It feels like a sturdy gun, and it's functioning great. And I have to say the trigger on this is really, really good, especially for just range shooting and casual shooting. I think it has what I would refer to as a duty trigger in it. It's very nice, the reset's not too long, it has a very clean take-up and a pretty good wall. But now I want to see how I shoot it at further distances, and like always, I'm going to double the distance of this target, put out at about 14 to 15 yards, load up another magazine. I'm going to shoot for the head on this IDPA target, see what happens to the group. I'm going to take my time and see how this trigger performs at a longer distance. So let's see how I do. Well, for me and for duty accuracy, the gun is still performing well. The gun feels really good in my hand. I really feel like this frame and these grips really fit my hand well. The frame is not too wide, but of course that's only because we have kind of a quasi-stack magazine, which is why we only have 10 rounds. If it was a thicker magazine, they'd probably have to make that frame a little bit wider. Not really sure how I would feel about that, but as the gun is, it feels really good in my hand. One thing I did discover taking my time with the longer distance is that the wall on this trigger breaks not necessarily predictably as much as I would like. So for example, I can get that trigger back to the wall and it's really, really light. I kind of like to stage my trigger and I can't do that as well on this. But as I said, this is a duty handgun, or what I think is a duty handgun. It's how I would personally classify it and kind of put it into my collection. So as a duty trigger, it's perfectly good. As a target trigger, might not be the best, but it's definitely manageable. All right, so speaking of this gun being a duty gun, the next test I'm going to do is the quick magazine change, or the defensive use. Now remember, I am not a competition shooter. I don't claim to be some type of tactician. That's not what I do. I'm just an average gun guy. So I'm just curious, if I was going to carry this and I had to quickly change the magazine or use it in some type of defensive scenario, could I change this magazine fast? Could I reinsert it and get the gun back in action? Well, I think I'll be able to, but I'm curious how fast I can shoot with this trigger, get the gun back in action. Well, let's just see how I do and how fast I can do this. Well, I'm really impressed with how fast I can get this magazine out of here, reinsert, get the gun back in action. However, I can't shoot it as fast as I would like. Being the fact that this is a double action, single action trigger, the reset's a little bit longer and I don't shoot it as fast as maybe I do other guns that are like striker fired. So I feel like the trigger in this is just a little bit slower, but once again, for a duty handgun, a duty sidearm that's just semi-automatic, it's perfectly fine. And I think that because I slowed down on my shooting, I was a little bit more accurate with my shot placement shooting that fast. So I do like that, and I'm pretty impressed with this gun so far and still have absolutely no malfunctions. So now I want to give my wife Becky a chance to shoot this. She's not a big fan of 45 either. She has smaller hands and sometimes she can be a little bit recoil sensitive. However, so far I'm really impressed with the recoil of this gun. It is a full-sized metal framed 45. That helps absorb that recoil, and the gun doesn't have all that much muzzle flip. So I actually think she's going to enjoy this one. I really would like to find a 45 that she enjoys shooting. So this one might be it. Well, we'll just have to see. So let me load up another magazine, give her a chance to shoot this gun, and see how she does and what she thinks. So after shooting it, she said there was a couple things about this gun she absolutely loved. First was the grip. She said it felt great in her hand, and she really liked that. She liked the amount of texture that is on these grips. She said it felt great. The length of pull was really good for her smaller hands. Kind of surprised me because I kind of feel like this is kind of a big grip, but she liked it. She was also very surprised by the light recoiling of this gun. So in my book, that's a win. She still had to adjust her left hand after every shot, but I think this is a 45 that she could get used to and really like to shoot. So for me, that gives this gun a bunch of points in the win category. So I like that a bunch. All right, I want to do one more thing before I give you guys my final thoughts on this gun. No, I'm not going to do a mag dump like I usually do because I think with this trigger, I'm just not going to be able to shoot it really, really fast. So I'm going to set the target out at 25 yards. I'm going to just see how I can do shooting at the furthest distance that I can. I think this gun has good combat accuracy, so if I can land all of these rounds on target at 25 yards, I'm going to be pretty happy. So let me do that, and then I'll give you guys my final thoughts. So it definitely wasn't my tightest group ever, but everything was on target. So I'm really happy with this gun. It shoots well. It's very functional. It feels great in my hands. I didn't have any problems with it at all. No malfunctions. It's well built. It's very aesthetically pleasing. I am just really impressed with this, and I think for the CZ97B's last hurrah, I think CZ hit it out of the park with this one. And now I'm kind of feeling like I missed out. Maybe I should have purchased one of these when I had the chance and when they were a little bit more affordable. I'm sure I can still find a new one, but the prices have definitely gone up. And I think Matt has a fantastic gun here. And this is honestly a great gun if you love 45. I'm very impressed with how well it shoots and its recoil. In a way, I kind of look at it as a metal framed version of an HK45. Another gun that only has 10 rounds of capacity. So it shoots really well, and I like the weight of this. I just don't think that this particular gun would be great for competition shooting, but it would be great for duty. And if you like to carry maybe outside the waistband, like to carry bigger guns, or like to shoot 45, you can't go wrong with this. I'm just very impressed. It is a well-built, robust, very functional, practical 45. So if you don't want a 1911 and you want something that's still made of metal, the CZ97B honestly is the way to go. So very happy with it, very impressed with it, and I really think that this model is fantastic, and I do like the fact that they've upgraded so many things from the other version that I did shoot. So on my star system, how would I rate the CZ97B? Well, really impressed with this particular version. Still a few things that I wish it had, like that rail and so forth. And I do kind of wish I could shoot it just a little bit better. I still shot it really well, but I kind of wish the trigger might have a little bit better break on the wall. But overall, absolutely fantastic. And I'm going to give this thing 4.5 out of 5 stars. A really good review. It's still not perfect, and I know that a lot of modern shooters are probably going to want, as I said, like a red dot on top. They're going to want that rail, but I'm sure there's other upgrades that you can do. I'm sure there's companies like Cajun Gunworks that offer triggers for this particular model, which if you like to customize these, you can do that. If you want to change out these grips, you can as well. As I said, go check out Brownworks. I'm sure he could hook you up with an amazing set of grips for this gun as well. So there's a lot of aftermarket for this, a lot of stuff that you can do it and make it your own if you don't like the stock configuration. But I think the stock configuration is absolutely outstanding, and I would put this gun up against any Colt 1911 or an HK45 or a USP 45. I think it's that well built, it's that robust. I think it's just a fantastic combat duty sidearm. It's just a great pistol overall. So thank you, Matt, for lending this to the channel. It was great to get to shoot one of these again, and I'm really glad that I got to revisit this on this range report. So what do you guys think? Does the CZ97B have anything that you desire or want out of a handgun? I definitely think this gun would have a place in my collection if I found one for the right price. And I'm really glad that I got to shoot this, especially being one of the last ones that CZ made. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Are you a big fan of 45? So, as always, thanks for watching.